44 special versus 45 ACP, and what I have today, gold dot ammunition, gold dot bullets. Now the 44 special happens to be loaded by Underwood, as where the 45 ACP is loaded by Spear. That's just all that I could get my hands on, but they are both gold dot bullets. Now the 45 ACP is a 230 grain bullet, as where the 44 special is a 200 grain bullet. So they're a little bit off as far as sectional density goes. We would have to be working with about a 220 grain bullet for the 45 ACP versus that 200 grain gold dot, or go the other way, a 210 grain versus 230 grain. But they're pretty close for what they are. A 200 grain 43 caliber diameter bullet versus a 230 grain 451 diameter. So pretty close. This should be a pretty good fair comparison. We got similar amount of bullet travel in these guns as well. That's why I used the 5.3 inch Glock versus the 4 1/4 inch Smith & Wesson Model 69. So we're going to go through the chronograph and see what kind of velocity and accuracy we get at the same time. And then, as always, we're going to go through the Juggernaut box, which contains a 1 3/4 inch pack of bologna that kind of simulates about the size of a pectoral muscle. We're covered by 4 layers of denim and followed by 1/4 inch medium density fiberboard that kind of simulates like ribs or sternum. And once this goes into water jugs, how this compares to ballistics gels, after going through the bologna pack, the first jug, if we get a mark out the back, that's about 9 inches. Second jug about 12 inches. Third jug about 15 inches. Fourth jug 18 inches, and so forth. So let's get started with the test between 45 ACP versus 44 special. All right, I'm about 5 yards from the target, 4 yards from the chronograph. I'm not really sure what the rate of velocity is on this round, but I think it's somewhere around 830 feet per second. So let's see what we get for the velocity and accuracy with the 45 ACP. That's obviously an error read. That's not quite right. I'm going to hook up my light system on this thing and see if that helps. Alright, the lights are on. We'll see if this helps a little bit. Those are really weird readings. I've never had anything like that before. $791, that's about right. $806, $781, $814, $792. So a pretty low end 45 ACP round, but recoil was really low as would be expected. So overall, not too bad. Now let's see how that 44 special compares. All right, 44 special. This happens to be rated at 975 feet per second out of a 6-inch barrel. So we'll see how it does out of the 4 1/4 inch. $902. $882. No read. No read. 916. All right, let's get a few more rounds here. You saw I kind of flinched on one of those shots. The trigger broke before I was used to it. Brand new gun, so I'm getting used to it. Sometimes the 5 shots will rotate slightly different than the 6 shots because the notches are further away. So still getting used to it. Let's see what we get here. Not even sure if that read. 939. So I'll take those for the average. So overall, pretty good velocity, faster velocity, but a lighter bullet. Now let's hit the ballistic box and see how these two compare to each other. All right, first up we have that 45 ACP, relatively slow round, but a nice big 230 grain bullet. So let's see how this does. All right, very good amount of damage on that first water jug. I don't have to search far for the bologna pack. Here it is, and that's not too bad. Decent amount of damage for what it is. But like with a lot of rounds that are kind of slow and have a lot of weight to them, oftentimes it pushes that energy a little bit deeper than the lighter, faster rounds. So that's pretty much to be expected. I'll have to find that fiberboard. So here's that fiberboard entrance and exit. And typically when we see something that looks much larger than bullet diameter, that does indicate that it did expand within this baloney pack before it hit the fiberboard. And in combination with the way the first jug looks, I would say it probably did expand. So let's see what we got in water jugs. All right, first jug has a huge amount of damage, and this is one of the cool things about 45 ACP. It doesn't necessarily have to have a lot of energy to produce a lot of damage. Jug 2 is completely empty and split. I typically see stuff like that with like 357 Magnum, where the energy hits it so hard it just kind of splits and drains the water out quickly. Jug 3, we're starting to drift significantly downward. I see a split in jug 4. And jug 4 contained that bullet. Not really much in the way of marks in the back. This is going to indicate probably about 16 or 17 inches comparison to ballistics gel. Let's see what we got here. What we got is perfect expansion. Totally perfect. That's a very, very nice looking gold dot round. You can't get much better than that for the way that looks. Now let's see how that 44 special compares. All right, 44 special. If you kind of looked at that round closely, it did have a larger hollow cavity than the 45 ACP, despite the 45 ACP having a pretty big hollow cavity. So we'll see what this does here. Faster, bigger hollow cavity. I'm going to guess less penetration, but we'll see what we get. Oh yeah, hit with a lot of water. Baloney pack is just shredded here. All right, this is similar to what I saw with the Underwood lead hollow point. Completely ripped off a whole side of this baloney pack. Really impressive damage. Fiberboard is in the first jug here. And we definitely see something similar, but something a little different here. Definitely where it entered here and exited, that's going to definitely indicate expansion, as well as that destroyed baloney pack. But unlike the 45, this first jug, which happens to be very destroyed, it was full of a bunch of this fiberboard, so it's pushing it in. And we typically see that with rounds that don't penetrate very far, because they're really just exploding and pushing that fiberboard in. So let's see what we got in the next jug. All right, jug 2, really big hole through it, and a big entrance hole in jug 3. This kind of surprises me. It's different than what I thought I was going to see here, because there's a really big hole in 4 and it's leaking. So I don't feel any marks at the back of 4. That's going to be that same 16 to 17 inches that we saw with the 45 ACP. What we have is really good expansion. It's not as uniform as that 45 ACP, but I would say the performance very similar. So even though this wasn't a perfectly fair test, I think it does demonstrate that the 45 ACP and the 44 Special are kind of in a similar class. About the same penetration, really good expansion. The 44 Specialist happens to be a little bit lighter, moving a little bit faster, so that is going to give a little bit of an advantage over the 45 ACP in terms of producing that really quick damaging effect, as where the 45 ACP is going to go a little bit deeper. But if we had pretty much identical bullet weights, I think we would see something really similar, because this 45 ACP had a larger hollow cavity. So you kind of have to put that into the works here, because it's going to tear out and expand a little bit easier. So both excellent rounds here, but I would say, taking away from this test, what I'm seeing is I'm really surprised by that 45 ACP, how well it expanded. A lot of people will say that expansion is completely velocity based, and I don't really agree with that, because 700 and high 700s feet per second, we're still getting excellent expansion. So I think partially it is energy based, and energy is based on velocity, but we're also looking at 45s, 44s have larger hollow cavities and like 9mm 357. So there's a lot to take into account when trying to figure out an equation like that. But I would say both did pretty well. So that's what you get today. Gold dot 44 special versus 45 ACP. So as always, comment, share, and like, and thanks for watching.